Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the GSC's second professional development event, Strategies and Tools for Graduate Academic Success. Before I introduce our speaker today, just a few things to keep in mind for the PD certificate. This event counts towards earning 1 credit for the PD certificate. You need to attend at least 5 events in an academic year that's between August 21 through May 2022. So those joining us from Zoom, your attendance will be recorded online. And if you did not sign the attendance sheet on your way in, just come find me after the event. So today's presenter is Shana Bender. She is an academic coach at the Academic Achievement Center at K-State. And today, Shana will share some tips about time management with the tools available at AAC during graduate school.
Okay, we'll get started. My name is Shana Bender, and yes, I'm with the Academic Achievement Center. I'm really excited to be here with all of you, and even for those of you on Zoom. And we're gonna just talk about some strategies and tools today to kind of help support your graduate school academic journey. So again, we're gonna address 3 major themes here. And so we're going to talk about goal setting, why that's so essential to motivation, and then moving kind of how that helps you move through your program. We'll also talk about the importance of project management, since balancing time and responsibility is not just essential, but an area most students find challenging. And then finally, we'll look at how your mindset can impact your feelings of belonging, contribute to your stress levels and procrastination. And we kind of see these as the 3 themes that are kind of fundamental on how you approach time management. So we're going to begin with these personal academic goals, and you might be wondering, like, why start here? I thought this was a presentation on time management. What do goals have to do with it? But goals are really essential in designing kind of your path forward. For many of you, you probably started with that end in mind. You came to grad school, and perhaps you all had different goals, but you maybe it was just to get to the degree, but probably there was something driving you to seek more knowledge, be more invested, and kind of immersed in the area that matters to you. But of course, we can't go from point A to point B. We have to be able to kind of see these smaller pieces to get us there. And it's possible at this point in the semester, you're feeling like there's a lot of pieces to make sense of it all. So we really want to think about our goals. And our SMART goals, we are thinking specifically about outcomes. We need to make sure that they are achievable given the amount of time you're allotted. So we think about our short-term goals. They usually revolve around some sort of challenge, some sort of domain that's difficult, like time management or coursework, scholarship, etc. Long-term goals, by contrast, tend not to be as domain specific. But they are really supported by these shorter term goals. So for an example, a short-term goal could be, I want my GA responsibilities to take about 30% of my time, my thesis writing to take closer to 40% of my time, allowing that final 30% to be kind of split up with coursework, networking, and other things like that. The long-term goal, however, might be to complete thesis draft by February 2022. So that short-term goal of kind of dedicating those time blocks kind of serves the long-term goal by acting as like this benchmark to measure progress. Now, there are people out there on Zoom, and I welcome you to unmute and jump in, or anybody here in this room. Does anyone have an example of a short-term or a long-term goal? You're welcome to share one of yours, or maybe one that you think is just serves the example well. Submitting a paper, getting a paper published, long-term or short-term? Short-term? Yeah, it could be, depending on if that's a benchmark, perhaps to getting maybe a certain kind of publication rating, right? So those papers serve as a short-term goal. However, if you're maybe new to publishing and you're still trying to figure out how to do it all, that could be the long-term goal, and there could be other short terms that support that, such as like learning about the process or working with collaborators and things like that. So absolutely. So if you are clear on your goals, you're more likely to be clear on how you prioritize your time. If your goals are related, is a great example, because if they're related to publications and you're spending the majority of your time on all of your teaching responsibilities, you're going to need to kind of reconfigure how you're working that time. And oftentimes we find ourselves kind of pulled away from the things that are most important to us, which is why we really encourage reflecting on obstacles that might get in the way, considering solutions or action steps to kind of get back on track. I kind of use this metaphor of balancing on a yoga ball. At some point you might wobble a little bit on it and you're kind of staying up and you're hanging there, but eventually you might kind of tip too far in one direction. So you just need a plan for getting back on. And we all fall off at different points, but finding ways to kind of reset and re-engage is crucial. What are some possibilities of obstacles that might prevent you from staying on task? I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. You can shout them out here. If you're on Zoom, you can shout them out. I don't have a really good, let's see if I can look at this chat here a little bit too and acknowledge that. Oh, here, I've got a couple. We have a great example of a goal. Sorry, Jack, I didn't see that until now. So what are some potential obstacles that could maybe get in your way? Things that even maybe you notice now are kind of starting to take up more of your time than you would like. COVID exposure. Those are big obstacles. Yeah, right. How are you, right? How are you working around an environment and space, right? That's a very big obstacle. And how do you kind of have to change your approach knowing that things are a little bit different? Anyone else on Zoom land? Okay, we'll move on, but Zoom land, stay with me. There's a couple there that coming in. Oh, here we go. Involvement in clubs, absolutely. So kind of thinking about where's the majority of your time going there. Funding is definitely going to be an obstacle, right? Thinking about how much of your time are you dedicating to securing funding versus kind of what you want to accomplish. Are those things kind of compatible? Are they not compatible? Okay, I'm going to close this chat so the people in the room can see our PowerPoint, but I'll come back to that. So kind of as we talk through some of these major themes, I'm going to provide you with a couple additional resources to support you sort of throughout instead of throwing them all to you at the end. So on our website, we have a page just for graduate resources. This is a new addition to our Achievement Center. So you can find on there a goal setting template and a self-assessment rubric to kind of develop your priorities and focus. Some people might be really clear about their goals and their focus, and other times it might be a little bit more unclear. So these tools are designed to kind of help develop a framework for your thinking. But you can also just come see me in academic coaching to help develop your goals as well. So you're welcome to come in and grab a seat so we can think about those things together. Okay, so next we're going to spend some time talking about project management. Curious, when you hear project management, what do you think of? First thing that comes to your mind. Check for the chat here. Yeah, you're from business, so what do you think when you think you're project management? Yeah, so looking at like all these different pieces that need to kind of happen. A couple of people in the chat, time allocation, planning, yeah, absolutely. Those are great words to kind of define what project management is. I think people sometimes think about that, like putting on an event or doing a product launch or like developing strategic plans. But I think project management, and not just I think, this is kind of how we want to go through this, is really applied to yourself, right? This is how you manage your kind of finite amount of time that you have. Sometimes people think of it like backwards mapping, where you're breaking up your tasks into these achievable pieces and then working backwards from a deadline to help accomplish a task. Anyone think of a time when they've done this, but not known that it was called project management or backwards mapping? I haven't done anything like that. We've got a couple. I know, like, one example that I have for myself is that even just kind of how I spend my weekends and thinking about everything that I want to get done, kind of working from when I sit down at the end of the day, what do I want to say I've completed? And then thinking, what are all kind of those steps and where is it going to go throughout my day? I probably don't realize I'm doing it, but I'm kind of doing that process of like backwards mapping in my head. Okay. All right, I'm gonna kind of move on here. Okay. So the first thing to understand is that you have the power to manipulate time to your advantage. Rather than believing that time is just something that kind of happens to you. Graduate school demands that you have multiple responsibilities. Like, what are some responsibilities that graduate students face? Teaching, research, writing. Absolutely, yeah, writing. Right? Keeping like active with the research and the kind of like scholarship. Right. So when you're strategic about your time, you really have the capacity to kind of make progress. And all those responsibilities kind of think of like, these are your buckets, right? Kind of your categories of responsibilities. And our goal is to kind of keep each of these buckets like moving forward. And we talk about graduate school a little bit like a marathon, right? You kind of have to find that healthy pace that's going to sustain you across time. You need that plan. Can't sprint a marathon or you're going to burn out. So we're just going to take a look at an example here in just a second. But once you've mapped kind of all of these various tasks and deadlines, you'll kind of be able to see where you've got maybe an intense workload in front of you and when things are a little bit slower, right? So finding that pace, that's part of that strategic plan. So here's an example of a project plan. On the left column, you see that those are those buckets. We also call them streams of responsibilities. And each task kind of falls into those different categories and have deadlines associated to them. You are the owner of most of these tasks, so you may not include an owner unless you're mapping collaborators on a project and including them in there. Some deadlines can be, internal deadlines that you self-assign, but some of them are going to be external. It's the ones that kind of have to happen when they happen. We use spreadsheets to kind of map this all out so you can organize by date or and then filter out categories. And then that allows you to really see how distributed each of these categories are. If there's weeks where you're going to need more attention more heavily to one area. Some weeks also have some that are due more than others. So you can see there's this September 1st week where there's multiple things kind of happening back to back. That helps you think about, okay, well, I have all this stuff, but the week before is a little lighter. So what can I kind of move around to really be effective with my time? So yeah, just like thinking about redistributing your time so things aren't kind of like jamming up and coming at you all at once. So again, we kind of have some resources here to support you. Project planning template, what I kind of showed, is available on our website. But we also have this week at a glance tool that's coming soon, to a website near you. And you can take a look at how your time is allocated. We're hoping that tool will be up kind of in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But in the meantime, we do have a general week at a glance tool to help kind of build a weekly schedule. What this does is it really helps you set aside time for specific tasks and kind of reduce procrastination by protecting kind of these chunks of time. When you use these tools together, they become really powerful strategies for kind of staying on task and giving that structure to fall back on when you get off task. And really, these tools are kind of exist in how we've kind of put them in our own brains, but we really encourage people to use these tools as they work for you. These are starting points to think about how you think, but all tools really should be adapted to you. Some people try it and it's helpful to kind of see where time is going. Others really like it as a schedule for their day. So try it and just see what surfaces for you. What if the last thing we're going to look at today is your mindset and how we approach our work. The road, the road to the goal is not really a straight path. We experience it, all sorts of road bumps along the way. And it's really people who are able to kind of stay attuned to those changing needs, make appropriate adjustments, and build routines that allow flexibility, make progress towards their final goal. We are going to talk about the big one. You can guess the big one, procrastination. That's the big one. Just in this room and even on Zoom, if you want to give a reaction button, raise your hand or react if you have ever procrastinated in your life. Yeah, it's all around us. If you can see what's going on in here, yep, there's all the raised hands. Right. It's really a normal reaction to work tasks. And really we don't think about making it go away. We think about managing it and kind of paying attention to what and when your attention is being dragged away. If you think about even the habits you have when you open your phone, is there like an app that you always go to? Maybe some of us had that disrupted yesterday. I did. Yeah, so thinking about what are these habits and routines that end up taking and absorbing some of your time. And also like thinking about what are the emotions connected to that avoidance or that engagement, right? Nobody wants to take on a task that's boring or frustrating. So yeah, we encourage people to kind of seek out that kernel of interest that's going to build motivation. If you love playing video games because you like the challenge of leveling up, how can you take that same idea and apply it to the work that you're about to do? And really, I think asking questions and remaining curious with yourself. What is the challenging part of this task that's making me avoid it? Chances are you're not avoiding the entire thing, you're avoiding a small piece of it that's getting you stuck. So we always say, address the challenge, don't avoid the task. Think about, ask questions about what is it that's stopping you. And again, we really feel like procrastination can be mitigated by using those tools to structure your day. If you're protecting time for certain tasks, you're going to see where that additional time exists, where it does not exist. I've had students come back to me and said, once I put it on this calendar, I realized it had to happen here. And then if it didn't happen here, I had this little space of cushion where it could happen elsewhere. So just giving that kind of that motivation to kind of work on it when it's necessary. And then the other thing is just using your energy levels to your advantage. Have you guys heard the term eat the frog? No? Okay, so eat the frog is just basically means you're good. It's a really weird phrase that doesn't sound like it is what it means, but basically it says like, do the hardest thing at the beginning of your day, get the hardest thing out of the way. So when we think about mapping our energy levels, when are times where your energy level is high and you can do that, you can eat the frog, you can take on the hardest part. And when are you kind of low energy and maybe you can only handle like checking email or cleaning it out or organizing it, something very simple. So really thinking about what are the high parts of your day where you're going to be most effective to do the challenging work, and where's the part of the day where you're kind of powering down. If you find yourself at the end of the day scrambling to get something done, and that is not a high energy place for you, that's where kind of using those schedules and things to really think about how you can utilize that to your advantage. There is nothing wrong with working late in the day if that's where your energy is, as long as you're kind of keeping yourself balanced and to your other responsibilities. So in many ways, well, actually, I'll stop there. Are there any kind of questions so far about procrastination, maybe examples of things that have been tough? We'll just pause for a minute. We'll also have some time for questions at the end too. Oh, thanks, Jack. I see that you added in. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, if you have the schedule but still struggling to follow the schedule, kind of what are other things you can use to get there? I think that's where you have to take a look at that and realize, is the schedule actually serving the way that you need it to? We talked about mapping energy levels and thinking like, if that's not happening for you, then maybe things just have to be like reshifted around. I also think about like, again, that like kernel of what's that piece that's kind of stopping. So just like being really curious about your own work habits, and having to like, to be able to ask yourself those questions too. Sometimes when those schedule things aren't working, it also could just because of how much time you've given yourself. I hear all the time, like, well, I started this thing, but it took me way longer. We always encourage students to overestimate the amount of time that it takes them to do something, and then be given the gift of time when things take longer or things take shorter than you think it would be. Yeah. Yeah.
And also related to the procrastination, one suggestion I heard once that would really helpful is to also put into your schedule the things that you would maybe procrastinate or that you would like to do. So to have a favorite TV show I want to watch or something like that, if you see it in your schedule, you know, okay, I'm gonna have a time for that later. So if the time is reserved, so you don't need to get distracted and do it right now, and that might help you stay focused on
Yeah, so I'm just going to repeat that into the mic. So Dr. Miller's suggestion was, when you're scheduling, make sure you're including those real life components of things that are going to help support like your personal wellness, like sleeping and eating. Sometimes those things get pushed to the side. And also scheduling in those relaxation, those enjoyment pieces, so you have that protected time for it. On our website, there is a week at a glance sample, and you'll see kind of, it gives you an example of how to build each of those things in kind of sequentially. So starting with the things that can't change times, classes that happen, between this hour and this hour, and then building in kind of those life skill tasks, and other places where you can put in your research, relaxation, where you're going to dedicate time for teaching, grading, those kinds of things. So definitely check those out. Let me check Zoom. Nothing on the chat in Zoom. Okay. So in many ways, I just kind of want to take a minute here to talk about just like how these different expectations have changed to kind of how you operate in this advanced degree universe. Does require a little bit of a mindset shift. Woo. As undergraduates, you're kind of accustomed to like this finite amount of knowledge that you learn in a course and then sort of move forward. But in graduate work, knowledge is kind of ongoing and evolving. Graduate students that succeed are those who kind of accept this mindset of like curiosity in place of mastery. While your skills are going to continue to develop and you're going to build some mastery, graduate work kind of demands that you're spending a lot of time asking and answering questions. And so it's something we talk about and keeping in mind as far as managing stress or worry about am I doing it right? Am I, am I good enough to be here? Do I have, the skill sets? These things we want you to kind of keep in mind that this is to come at it from a level of curiosity, and being, and knowing that questions are just as important as having the answers. So continue to kind of advocate for yourself and what you need to know, and challenge and kind of keep challenging your own skill sets. And it's totally okay not to have all the answers. I'm going to stick around to kind of talk and look at if anyone has some examples and things. I see there's a couple hands that are raised on Zoom. So Trey, you have your hand raised. You want to unmute and share with us? No, I can't hear him. Oh, from raising hands. Oh, from earlier. Anu, is that the same for you as well? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Yes, okay. Okay. Yeah, so we just want you to know that you've got this. And if you want to dig deeper into any of these topics too, you're welcome to make an academic coaching appointment to explore your own challenges. The AAC website, you can also explore any of the tools we talked about. And the tools, we are in the process of developing them. So we would really love to get any feedback or thoughts you have. You can email me, or you can make an appointment on the Navigate app. So I will stick around if anyone has any questions, thoughts, jumping in with experiences or strategies that's worked for them. Absolutely. Yeah, so the question is what is the structure of like an academic coaching meeting look like? Okay, yeah. So when you make an appointment, and it would be with me, I'm seeing graduate students this year. But when you do that, what we'll do is we'll essentially just have a conversation, and we'll start kind of with goal setting and thinking about where are you going, where do you want to go? And then from there, it's a pretty tailored and individualized conversation. We might bring out some of the tools if they serve kind of the purpose or the need that potentially you're looking for. But really it's an opportunity for you to kind of reflect on your practices, and we act kind of as sounding boards to also ask you questions and dig deeper into your process and what and how you want to go about it. We can help you build a plan. We can help just kind of for you to think about your what you've already got going, poke holes in it if it's not working, and then put together a set of action items to kind of for you to move forward and take action on to get you closer to where you want to go. So it is a pretty individualized kind of process. Okay, thank you. I'd like to know about the tools, about the tools for graduate students in the AAC. Yep, so if you were to head to this website, the ksu.edu/AAC, you can click, there is a tab for academic success tools. Those are all of our tools for all students. But you can also go into, I believe the tab is called resources. And when you tab down on that, there's graduate school resources. And there are specific tools that we've kind of tailored that address maybe more specifically some of the needs we see. We have a few more tools. We have like a backwards mapping tool to help with large projects that can extend over a long amount of time. And we have some kind of who, what, where, who, what, and how of graduate school. We have some more tools on mindsets, thinking about how do you talk to yourself, and is that kind of conversation that you're having with yourself helping you. So there's a couple of different tools there. Thank you. Lena has tagged some academic coaching. It is a generalized approach, but our conversations can become more specified. As coaches, we don't have a lot of information about your program. You are sort of the expert on those things, but we can always help you develop questions that you might have to take out to other people or get you kind of connected in the right spaces. But as far as giving you information about program of study or classes, that's not our jam, but we'll get you connected with the people that can answer that. Great, glad I could answer your question. All right, anything else? Hey, it was kind of a short and sweet. That is a big overview, but like I said, come to academic coaching. We can dig more deeply into any of the kind of issues or challenges you're facing. And we're just really glad that you had us here today. Any other things you want to add to before we close? No? Okay. Well, I'll stick around too if there's something you want to chat about this time. Like I said, I've protected this time for you all, so I will hang about. Okay. Thank you.